Okay, welcome to the class. And today we'll be discussing about the wrought ware alloys part 2. Till now we have discussed regarding the wrought ware alloys definition, properties, and the dislocations that are happening in wrought ware alloys, and defects like the point, line defects, slip systems, twinning, and the dislocations in the polycrystalline structures. Because being a polycrystalline structure, you will have solute atoms, and this solute atoms will cause some kind of strengthening mechanisms like strain hardening. And what are the effects of the strain hardening? That is, unlike strengthening the metals, it will also reduce the properties like ductility and corrosion resistance and twinning. So as we already know, there is the strain hardening, grain refinement, and the cold working. They will reduce certain properties, most probably the essential property of the wrought ware metals, like the ductility. So in order to bring back the ductility to the original consistency or the original working range, there is a process called as annealing. Okay, now we'll be starting the class with the introduction with annealing. What is annealing? Annealing is the effects associated with the plastic deformation like the strain hardening, decreased ductility, distorted grains, increased dislocation density can be reversed by simply heating the metal to an appropriate elevated temperature without melting it. So you will just simply heat the metal till the desired range of temperature, not melting it, so that you will get back those properties which you desire. Okay, so the question here is how much range of the temperature should be used here, and how long. Okay, the range is, the rule of thumb is that you can use the temperature half the melting temperature of the metal, wrought metal, or and how severe is the cold working determines how long you are supposed to do the annealing. If you have cold worked the metal too long enough, you are supposed to do the annealing long enough. And the melting temperature, if it is too high, then the annealing temperature should also be high. So 3 points is half the temperature of the melting temperature of the metal, and if the melting temperature is high of the metal, then annealing should be high, and more the cold working done before, and after that is to reverse the process, annealing should be done more. Okay, in the process of annealing, you will have three stages. One is recovery, recrystallization, and grain growth. See what happened in this graph. In this graph, the tensile strength during the cold working has decreased, the red line, and the ductility is increased. So we are at a point in the first dotted line. Okay, from there the stages of annealing will start. So in the recovery stage, what happens is, because of the heating process, the atoms will get diffused. So atomic diffusion will take place, and there will be release of internal energy. So the stress is relieved by the release of internal energy. So that is why it is also called as stress relief annealing. And what happens in the microstructural level, that is, there is slight decrease in the tensile strength. As you can see in the graph, the blue line is slightly decreased, whereas the ductility remains as such. So this is the desired level where you are supposed to stop the stage of annealing, because you are relieving the stress of an orthodontic wire which you are using before incorporating into the bracket, so that it will be stabilized at that point. So you require the wire to be annealed till the stage of recovery. Okay, then what happens after that? Recrystallization. Recrystallization, the term itself says that the atoms which are old diffused now gets disappeared, and a new state of atoms with very low density grain boundaries will be formed, which is not at all required. Okay, so because of that, the mechanical properties, see what happened, the tensile strength has dropped almost, and the ductility has risen to a higher level. So in till this stage, you are not supposed to do the process of annealing. And in the grain growth, the same thing, the grains started growing each other, there won't be any grain boundaries, so because of which the strength of the metal will be decreased, and it is becoming more less the tensile strength is becoming to the least and ductility is gaining a lot, which is not desired. So eventually what happens, if you increase this plastic deformation to occur, it deforms and breaks at a point where there is fracture of the metal. So that is why you are supposed to stop the annealing at the point of recovery, not to the point of recrystallization or grain growth. So this is the process of annealing. It is done to reverse the plastic deformation that has happened because of cold working, strain hardening, etc., and to bring back the desired properties, done till the half the temperature of the melting range of the metal. And 3 stages are involved, out of which you are supposed to stop it at the stage of recovery. Till here, all the properties and the basics of the wrought wire alloys has been discussed. Now we'll be moving to the wrought wire alloys as such in detail. Okay, the first comes stainless steel. Okay, we usually come across the stainless steel in our routine use. Okay, it's also called as a carbon steel first because it contains most of the percent of carbon. So first initially it is used to be called as a carbon steel. How it is manufactured? It is done by a melting process. In the melting process, what happens is you will fire this metal, you'll heat it to a higher temperature that it gets molten and forms into a liquid lava like consistency, and then you'll pour it to get an ingot formation. Ingot is the grains of different type of grains, coalescence of different shapes of grains of different metals is called as an ingot. Ingot usually looks like something like a small cylindrical thing or different shape, or a small pellets, like you'll get the amalgam pellets, like same thing. You will have an ingot, which is so I'll show you how the melting happens. So this is melting, where you will fire it to higher temperature and it will become molten lava and ingot formation, after which it is rolled. See the disc which are covering this particular ingot in all the 3 dimensions. So depending upon the shape of the disc, you will get the shape of the ingot into a, which is drawn later into a particular wire or cylinder, whatever the shape the roller is. Okay, so this is the process: melting, ingot formation, rolling and drawing. And what is this stainless steel? It is a binary iron carbide system which contains less than 2.1% of carbon by weight, and it is usually a body centered cubic at room temperature, which is stable till 912 degrees centigrade. After that, it is unstable and broken down to a face centered cubic, which will be discussed later. And this stainless steel, usually if it that is the normal carbon steel, what we call, if it contains 12 to 30% of chromium in it, it is called as stainless steel. And why this chromium is added, I'll tell you. See, when a chromium is added, it forms chromium oxide layer protecting the stainless steel. So stainless steel has a tendency to get oxidized when it is exposed to the outer atmosphere. So orthodontic wire, obviously it is exposed to saliva and outer atmosphere, which gets oxidized. When you add certain amount of chromium to it, it forms chromium oxide layer, which prevents the corrosion. So that process is called as passivation. Once it is depleted also, because of the free chromium that is present, it again forms the chromium oxide layer, which is a perpetual process. So this process of adding 12 to 30% chromium in a carbon steel is called as passivation. Okay, see the chromium oxide layer getting damaged by machining, but still it is getting reformed automatically, okay, because it is already present in the parent metal. Now, as I said, it is usually stainless steel at room temperature is a body centered cubic. When it is heated to a temperature of 723, it is converted to FCC, that is face centered cubic. This body centered cubic form is called as ferrite form. Okay, and this face centered cubic form is called as the austenite form. Okay, and the body centered cubic has a lower solubility of about 0.02%, whereas FCC will have a solubility of 2.1%. Now coming to the next one. This ferrite to austenite transformation is already, I told, at 723 degrees centigrade. But When austenite is suddenly quenched, you know what is quenching? When a glass is suddenly in a molten state, when it gets the desired shape, it is suddenly dropped into cool water, and so that it will get back the I mean it is fixing to the same shape which we have done. So that is called as quenching. So austenite is transformed to martensite's form, which is on sudden quenching, and this martensite form is hard, strong, and brittle alloy. Okay, so what happens is when martensites form is very metastable state, that is it cannot be in a stable state. So when a slight temperature difference is present, it is getting broken down to ferrite and carbide. So that temperature where it is getting broken, and that process is called as tempering. It is called as tempering. Now coming to the types of stainless steel. You already know, but we have discussed now BCC, FCC and martensite, which is a body centered tetragonal, BCT. Okay, so three types are there, where ferritic will have some amount of chromium percentage, nickel and carbon, austenite and martensite as shown in the table respectively. Okay, but this austenite, which is intern face centered cubic, it is also called as 18-8 stainless steel, because it contains 18% of chromium and nickel to 8%. Okay, so now coming to the applications of individual, ferritic stainless steel is a body center cubic structure. It has good corrosion resistance, but it is not hardened by heat treatment or work hardening. So it remains as it is non-flexible. So that is why we are not using it in a dentistry. So little application in dentistry. Now coming to martensitic stainless steel, which is a body centered tetragonal structure. So we already know that body centered tetragonal, it is the last phase which is formed after conversion from austenite to martensite after quenching, and it is less corrosion resistance than any other type, and it can be heat treated, but it can be used only for surgical and cutting instruments because it is highly hard. Already I told you in martensite, in the call-out box where we have got, it is highly hardened. Because of this hardness and strong strength, it can be used in surgical and cutting instruments for grinding, etc. Now coming to austenite, which is most popular form which we'll be using, which is face center structure. It is most corrosion resistance and used for orthodontic wires, endodontic instruments and pediatric crowns. So why is this austenite stainless steel preferred? Because of following properties. One is greater ductility, ability to cold work, and there is substantial strengthening during cold working, and greater ease of welding, and ability to overcome the sensitization. This term I'll tell in the next slide. And less critical grain growth and comparative ease of forming the austenite form. Now coming to the process of corrosion and how do we deal with the corrosion resistance. Okay, first is when there is a severe strain hardening or organic and inorganic debris which is present in the mouth. Okay, there are certain methods which causes corrosion. We already know that there is a layer of stainless steel have already got a tendency to oxidize, forming an oxide layer. To prevent this, we are adding chromium, which forms chromium oxide instead, which is a process of passivation. But in certain situations like severe strain hardening, where some material when it is inserted, it becomes more anodic to the tooth which is less anodic. So in the presence of saliva, it can create an electrochemical wave, and because of the organic or inorganic debris or because of the roughness of the surface, it causes highly stressed regions to become anodic and less stressed to become ionic, and because of which cathodic, because of which there will be resulting in concentration cell corrosion. Okay, that is one of the reason, one of the possibility of forming a corrosion. And other possibility is because of the stainless steel contamination by using carbon pliers, which can cause electrochemical cell corrosion. Okay, it can also result in electrochemical cell corrosion because of the contamination by using of the pliers. And even the filler materials, like when you use a solder or welder to join the wire, in that cases also some kind of galvanic currents are present which causes galvanic cell corrosions. So these are the three possibilities of causing corrosions in the stainless steel. So in the next few slides we'll discuss what is the sensitization and stabilization process. Okay, till now we have gone through stainless steel properties, types, what is passivation, phase transformation. So in the next slides we'll be dealing with the rest of the topic.